So what we're doing today, we're dissecting a plate typically found on eBay or the cheap providers of resold Asian armor. If you take this cover off, this is what you're going to find. Now this is typically nylon, then usually about 300 denier or 500, something like that. Ours are 1,000. But this is what you see here in some cases, and really this top material after the cover is really dependent on the manufacturer. Most of the time there's a layer of polyethylene sheet, or there's this foam that manufacturers put on here to protect the strike face when you drop it. So the thing I want to point out though is the lack of tile, ceramic tile, out here to the edge, and I'll show that to you in a second. But this is generally made up of a layer of ceramic, and then beneath here you have a layer of polyethylene. And I'll pull this back and show it to you. Okay, so this is how it's made. You have the polyethylene backer, and then you have an adhesive layer, and then in this case you have foam on top of the backer. But inside that foam is about 1 inch wide. Inside that foam is where the ceramic starts down in here, and it's about this big. Wish I had a red marker, but that foam, the actual ceramic, is about where my pen is drawn. And so everything else out here is foam. Yes, when you buy a 6-pound alumina single curve plate for $100 or $125, this is what you're getting. And that's okay if you as the customer know that. If you know that it is, because even out here in this foam, you're getting HG2 protection most of the time. Make sure your provider can prove that. But out here, you're getting protection up to 44 mag. Okay? And we're talking specifically about a level 4 or RF3 plate. So all in here, you've got protection from up to a 44 Magnum handgun. And then in here, you have protection against up to the 30 caliber M2 AP. 30-06 armor piercing bullet. This one. That's usually, you have protection in this area here. 30 caliber M2 AP. You don't have protection against a 30 caliber M2 AP out here on the edges. Now, when I say up to 30 caliber M2 AP, what I mean is that this area with ceramic will protect you against the 30 caliber M2 AP and threats below that. So what I mean by that is all the RF1 threats, all the RF2 threats, and they are M193, M855, 7.62 51mm M80, and the 7.62 39mm mild steel core. Everything in the NIJ 0101.07 and 0123.00, this will protect you against in this area inside of the foam. Now I'm going to show you something here that most people don't understand when they buy an armor plate. I'm going to peel this foam away and I'm going to show you the edge of the ceramic, so you don't think that I'm just bluffing here. I want to actually show this to you. Now imagine yourself wearing this, okay? This is sitting up in the very, very important part of your chest. If you consider that this is the top of your chest And this is basically the two nodules, the two bones that stick out at the bottom of your neck. Those there are some very important arteries coming out of the top of your heart, and this foam right here gives you no rifle protection over those upper arteries leaving the heart. So just keep this in mind. When we build the standard plate, if somebody wants one, we'll push the tile as high up as we can get it. Actually, it's flush with the edge of the backer over here on the shoulders. So if we leave any space on a standard build, we leave it down here at the bottom. Now, some people like that build because it's kind of a hybrid protection, because you get handgun protection out here and you get rifle protection in the center, but you should not buy this plate without knowing. You should not buy this plate without knowing the details about its construction. And typically, if you have a single curve, 6 pound or 6.2 pound plate that's level 4 RF3, it's generally this construction. Because how do I know that? Because ceramic weighs a certain amount. If you were to fill all of these foam areas in with alumina ceramic, which is what this is, then you would have not a 6.2 pound plate, you would have an 8 pound plate. Okay? How do I know it's alumina? Believe me, I know most, unless you specifically have this in the product description, almost all plates are alumina plates these days because it's cheap. At those price levels, $100 to $125 is usually alumina. And here we're at 6 pounds, 2.8 ounces for this plate. This is a level 4 plate. And that equates to the new RF3 level. Now here's a little different tile. This is silicon carbide. This is much lighter. But you see there's more ceramic on it. There's only a 1/2 inch of coverage out here. And if you weigh that, it's probably going to be close to the same. But the difference is you have more tile. Silicon carbide is very light compared to alumina. It's harder. It is less dense, but it has some advantages. And when that bullet comes in and striking that hard ceramic, it has some advantages in stopping the higher caliber threats like the 30 caliber M2AP, that good old 30-06 armor piercing round. So not only is it harder, it's also much lighter, as I mentioned. And the only bad thing about silicon carbide is that it is more expensive. But this is all foam, and I'm going to cut this for you here because I want to show you that I'm not joking. Okay, now you guys on Reddit and social media, I'm not, you shouldn't know this. It doesn't surprise me that people don't know this. You should know it as a consumer, but it's kind of like not your fault. You know what I mean? Because we should do a better job at disclosing this stuff in the industry. So let me see if I can cut this foam off of here, and I'm going to show you that there's no ceramic. And keep in mind that a high-powered rifle round must hit, in this case, ceramic, before it can be broken up, slowed up, yawed, tumbled, whatever. And that's how it works. Okay, so here is the top edge of your 6 pound level 4 plate. And there's nothing up here. Now this, I promise you, your plate is built this way if it's aluminum and if it's 6 pounds. And you may have some guys that are manufacturers that are selling online a multi-curve 6-point something pounder, 6.9 pounder, but usually they have a 90% aluminum strike face and a very thin backer that wouldn't pass NIJ certification. But this is a 99% tile, 99% aluminum oxide. Most companies are using 90 or 95% at the most. A lot of them are using 90. Okay, so here you can see right in here, you see these little pieces of tile? And what you're looking at is the edge of that tile. You see how they're lining up perfectly. So I'm trying to show you that that's the top edge of the tile that is sitting in here. So this is kind of what you're looking at. This is a very high quality 99% aluminum tile, but I'm going to drag the tile down to kind of resemble what it is that you're looking at. Ignore the sides for a minute. But this is how the plate is sitting as I'm cutting it off and dissecting it. And there's about this much room right here with no tile at all. Okay, if this goes in, if this projectile right here goes into this area, it's going to go right through it. You need to know that, because this is up here where your heart is. Very important area. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to continue to pull off the foam, because I want to show you what it looks like to have this ceramic sitting there like that. Now, just keep in mind that what I'm pulling off of here right now is not ballistically relevant. In other words, what I'm pulling off right here is foam that has no ballistic value whatsoever. Keep that in mind. Underneath here, you do have polyethylene. This backer is polyethylene, and it is resistant in a certain thickness. It is resistant to HG2 threads, handgun threads, just like I mentioned. I'm going to measure that backer right there. So let's measure the backer. But it looks like about 12 millimeters on the backer. Okay, looks like good solid PE. These covers are pretty durable covers. They're nylon, like I said, but they're very low denier. Okay, thought at first that there was some foam on the back of this one, but I don't think there is. Doesn't look like it. This is just adhesive off the back of the cover, so you can see what you have. This is just some dye bleeding through from the side fabric. This is a little bit of a foam edge to protect it and make it more uniform look and fill in any imperfections, looks like. And there is no, some manufacturers will put a little bit of foam back here on the wear face. We've been working with the labs on doing some R&D on different things, and you can tell that during the certification process, unless that foam has a very high melting point, you end up running into problems with foam generally when you're trying to certify them, because you have so much of it, and then you have you know, very high temperatures during the certification process, up to 194 degrees Fahrenheit, cycling that way for, I think it's 11 days. Okay, so we're going back here and we're just taking this plate apart. I'm going to continue. You need to know this, folks. Does this surprise anybody? Does this surprise anybody? Hey, you got your new plates in the mail, you pull them out. Hey, they're light. Hey, buddy, how much are your level 4 plates? Well, mine are alumina 8-pound edge to edge. Well, I got some plates that are lighter than yours. Oh, really? I wonder why. It's because all of the ceramic is missing off the sides, guys. This foam that was here is lighter than this. As a matter of fact, let's do a comparison, and I'll show you that it is. All right, that is about the tile it would take to cover this area right here that I just removed. Okay. I'm gonna weigh the foam and I'm gonna weigh the ceramic, and then you can multiply that by for the rest of the edges. Okay, so the foam, I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's 0.3 ounces. All right. There we have 7 ounces. Okay. Okay. So you have 0.3 ounces, 7 ounces. Okay. So what that really equates to is the difference. If you filled in all this area with ceramic, you'd have an 8-pound plate approximately. All right. Now, you thought you were buying a ceramic plate, but what you're really buying is a ceramic composite plate, in this case, that is made up with a strike face of foam and ceramic. Now, I want to give you what the definition is of an edge-to-edge plate. An edge-to-edge plate, in my book, in my view, is when the ceramic comes to the edge, or very nearly so, of the backer. Okay? From the edge of the backer to the edge of the backer. Okay? That is an edge-to-edge plate. This is called a retracted strike face. Means that the strike face does not go to the edge. It's commonly referred to as in certain social media, the Chinese cheat ring or a foam ring. But you need to know about this vulnerability in your armor, potential vulnerability. Now, people say you shouldn't buy these, but that's a null argument also, because your armor can never be big enough. Even if it were an edge-to-edge plate, I mean, what happens if the bullet comes in here, outside of the plate? Then you would need a bigger plate. You can always argue about whether retracted strike face armor should be sold or not, but the bottom line is it's really up to an informed consumer. An informed consumer, meaning the consumer understands the construction. This consumer understands the pros and the cons. The consumer makes a choice about weight and performance for themselves. That's what is right and wrong. Man, this sucker over here he's being a pain. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. The reason that some manufacturers, especially foreign manufacturers, use this foam is kind of twofold reason. It makes the plate lighter, it makes the plate more marketable, it puts the protection in the areas that are more likely to see gunfire. But another reason is because it provides some lateral stability to these individual tiles that are sitting in here. So what you've got are these tiles that are sitting across here that are pinned together with this foam with a very strong PSA, pressure sensitive adhesive. And so when they get a hit, these foam pieces out here, they kind of help hold tension against the tile pieces, and it results in better performance. Now the problem with it is that is assuming the use of an inferior or a weaker, more flexible type of adhesive. The foreign companies, especially in Asia, generally use a clearprene rubber, a neoprene type adhesive that is very forgiving. It moves a lot, it's very flexible. And so because of the use of that material, that adhesive, they have to pin the plate together with this foam to get the good ballistic performance out of it. Now, a lot of these plates, and I have to be honest, I've been testing these things for over 20 years. A lot of the Asian made plates have very good performance. I can tell you that. And these are some of the reasons why. I'm trying to explain it. If you buy one of these and you know what it's made, and you've seen test reports or you've tested them yourself with an NIJ certified lab, then you know what I'm talking about. Okay. Now what I'm doing now is I'm uncovering the tile. Most companies that try to build edge-to-edge armor do it with the wrong adhesives, especially when there's a polyethylene backer involved. This polyethylene backer is a low energy material. It's very hard to bond to. I mean, I think you can see that it is tile, ceramic tile. The reason I'm cleaning this row of tile right here is so that you can see the color, because the color means something, especially in alumina. I'm going to put a row of 99% pure alumina oxide down underneath this row, and I'm going to show you that obviously this one is more yellowish. It is more ivory than this white tile. Okay, this means that the content of alumina is higher in this set of tile than this. Okay, this is probably a 90% or low 90s, mid 90s maybe percent aluminum. Nothing really wrong with that. It depends on the armor system, but this also means something though in terms of quality. This is a little heavier because there's more aluminum oxide content in it than this. So just because a plate is heavier doesn't mean that it's lower quality. Higher quality is usually heavier when it comes to certain types of ballistic ceramic. And if you fill in the whole plate with ceramic, obviously it's going to be heavier. So some would consider that greater quality. And to an uninformed consumer, it would be an increase in quality. But sometimes we have folks that want this general build. This is not our plate that we build, by the way. But when we build it, we build them with higher quality, high content alumina. It makes the plate slightly heavier, and we have the ability to go all the way to the edge with the ceramic. That also makes it heavier. Just be aware that when you buy a 6.23 pound plate, or even some of them are now in the upper 5 pound range, and they do that by leaving this configuration there, and then they just thin the backer down to say 10 millimeters. For every 2 millimeters dropped back here on the backing, you get about 6 ounces of weight savings. So if you go in here with a 10 millimeter backer instead of a 12, then you're saving another 6 ounces, and you're down just under 6 pounds for a level 4 RF3 plate. If you see that, if you see weights in the upper 5s, this is what they've done. They've used this layout, and they've gone in and they've reduced the number of plies in their backing material. So let's see. You can see that if you've watched our videos, you can see the difference between our adhesives and what I'm showing you here. This is typically how you would find a Asian made plate. It's either kind of a super glue material or neoprene rubber. This does not have much flex to it, but it's still wet, by the way. So it doesn't seem to have even cured. Okay, so that's the main problem with these multi-piece mosaic sets, these individual tiles. When done properly, a mosaic style ceramic array will outperform a single piece monolithic. What do I mean? This is a monolithic. This is one piece of beautiful Batossi ballistic tile. Okay, these multiple pieces will outperform this monolithic if it's built edge to edge like the monolithic, and it's built with an adhesive that is more like what we do with ours. So let's measure this and we'll see. This looks like about 10.5 millimeters. So I wanted to measure the actual space out here on the edge, on the periphery of the plate, that is void of ballistic material, no ceramic. And so this is about 1 1/8 inch. Or it's about 30 millimeters, if you can see that on the top. A little bit less down here. That's a lot. 1 1/8 inch. That's a lot. And sort of the same thing here. You know, I've seen plates that are 1 inch, but this is a lot. This is 1 1/8 inches. 1 inch over here. It just kind of depends on how they center this piece when they're assembling the armor. So that's quite a lot, and the total distance across the total size of the plate without the cover is a full 10 by 12. So they're getting They're cutting the backer to meet the 10 by 12 size, but yet they're leaving, in some cases, 1 1/8 of backing showing that's filled in by foam instead of ceramic. This is typical. This is typical of a 6-pound alumina single curve plate.